everybody. I'm Professor DiLiberti, a professor of humanities at College of DuPage, and I'm with Professor Satsutani, who's our Japanese professor at COD, and we are talking about COVID and Japan today. To give us a little bit of context, I want to give you a map of Japan just for a second, show you that obviously, Japan is a series of islands, and then Professor Satsutani, do you want to talk a little bit about this, or do you want to just go into some other questions? How would you want to start?
Well, from this map, I am originally from that light yellow area, which is in Kyoto. Right now, at the huge pandemic actually hitting everywhere, but heavily, of course, in Tokyo, which is on a dark green area, and then Hokkaido, which is a dark blue area, and Fukuoka, which is on a red area. Those are the areas that they are having a more infected people. It seems in a PCR positive.
So these are the hardest hit areas. Do you think it's because of population? I know we were talking earlier, and
Yes.
you mentioned this area wasn't that hard hit. So can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Yes. Hokkaido, actually, they closed that the actual island, all the business and so on. They did the emergencies the first in Japan, and then they actually reopened business earlier. So they are getting second hit right now.
They're already on the second wave.
Yeah, second wave.
Okay.
Wave. Down there, you see the blue-green areas. Blue-green area, it says Tohoku there. That's actually where the big tsunami hit in 2011 in March.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it seems that all the leadership of that particular regions had some of the, they are better, they take actions earlier enough so that their, the number of the infection is fewer at the moment.
So they had a tsunami and they said, we got this emergency thing. We know what we have to do.
Right.
And so then you said down here earlier?
Yeah, down there in the Kumamoto, in the red area there in the Kyushu. They also got the huge earthquake 2 years ago. And at that time, all the lifeline was stopped for a second, for a little bit. So they knew that leadership had to take action earlier. So they're getting a little bit better than the other areas. In Osaka areas, in the middle, they just announced a few days ago about their strategy of reopening the business. So but based on, I think it's still Japan is the middle of the wave. So it takes a little while until the end of this month.
So let me just mention that if we look at size-wise, California and Japan are approximately the same size.
Yes.
But California has 39.5 million people and Japan has 126.5 million people.
Yeah.
So we have different numbers. So can you give us your impressions of what's going on in Japan and why you think Japan is maybe different than South Korea or America or?
Actually, Japan is also taking action a little too late. Just like it seems that even here in the U.S., the art president here in the U.S. also taking action a little late. That's why we got a problem now. Even though California, they took action a little earlier, it's got a problem, but it's a lot better than in New York if you look at that. So in Japan, I think it's they're late. They closed. They did not close against China and Korea until the last minute.
Okay, so
and
they waited.
Also, that also get the problem too. But the Japanese testing is a lot fewer than what we do in the U.S. So we can't really tell about the number. Finally yesterday, the Tokyo announced the so-called in the number of yoseritsu, which is actually the testing numbers and the infected numbers. I mean the positive numbers, so that they are divided by
They've done 14,000 tests and there are 15,000 cases, but the test and the cases.
This is more. Of course, a little more, but In Tokyo, at least what they say yesterday by the Tokyo government, that 7.5% is the positive, the case positive.
Still,
So
the testing numbers are low, and
yeah,
you had some thoughts about why the testing numbers are low for the
it's one
country.
of the reason is I think that they even said that the ability to do have a testing, but their manpower is short, and the bureaucracy is complicated. Who does this? Who cannot do this? Who can do that? So
Uh-huh.
some of the people are suffering right now. They're asking the doctors to be, they're asking the testing at the in the hospital, but they say no until whoever says you can be tested, we cannot test.
I
So
see. So
that's
they're
why.
waiting for symptoms. They're waiting for symptoms to be
Yeah.
seen.
That's right. That's right. But remember, this one is actually the acute. So once you get the problem, and even next day, I mean, you're gonna die. So yeah,
Oh, so it has to be really acute.
we
So,
already had a problem that the people who are at home and asked to stay at home like the next couple of days, the next day he passed away in his apartment and so on. So
okay.
we already see those cases too.
So I have two questions for you. There are some theories linking testing to the Olympics, but I want to come back to that, and I want to ask you because you live in Japan sometimes, and I'm be curious to know if, as someone from Japan, are you able to go back now? Would you go back now?
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to, and every year I take students to Japan twice, and all the school trip was canceled this year. And but if I go to Japan now, I have to be separated. They will give us about 2 weeks quarantine time.
So do they enforce that? Do you have to go to a quarantine hotel? Do you have to? How do they enforce that quarantine?
Well, they do at the airport. They do at the airport. But
so they tell you where you have to go?
But the result does not come right away. The result does not come out right away. If you
they test you, okay.
Test you. So if you go there, you have to say the place where they were told, when you were told to. Maybe the hotels, maybe at certain places they do. But if I go there, then say, oh, Shingo, you got a place to go, your place and so on. So you can go, but you cannot use public transportations. So you have to arrange you're going back home, and you stay at home like 2 weeks without going out.
So you couldn't take a taxi?
But it's a voluntary though. It's voluntary. They're asking voluntary things.
I'm going to interject here. If you've ever taken a course with Professor Satsutani in Japan, it doesn't matter. He makes you walk like 50 miles a day. So you
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So if you went, then you may or may not go back, but you know that you would have to be isolated, and you can't be in.
Correct.
So there's some things there are, what behaviors do you think maybe have influenced Japan's, what people thought was a slow rate at first, or versus what's happening in other places?
You mean the slow transmissions?
Yeah.
I think they already checked also the antibodies. So that means they already knew, just like in New York it's done. They did the testing to the people that they have either antibody or not, and they already found quite a bit. So we knew that they had been already infected before, but there was no symptom maybe. So we know that, but I think it's the testing numbers, official testing numbers are fewer, but they are growing probably next few weeks. Those number of testing is growing. Then we see more trend. The only one thing I think is a difference between the human custom and people's custom between you here and then Japan. It will be probably in Japan, everybody probably knows that you have to take off your shoes before you go into the house or before you go into the even temples and so on. That will be, and then even here, maybe some of you do that, or maybe 50% are taking off shoes and things like that. But those are very different though. If you can have a different ethnic group, have the different, the living custom and things like that. Yeah, so
And then
that
you
will.
mentioned masks. You said that Japanese people
Yeah,
often are
Japanese.
more.
We if you go to Japan, you already know. Even Julia went to Japan with me, last spring, and then we saw it already. People wearing masks. We already asked the same questions. Why are they wearing a mask at the time before even this coronavirus coming? So people already had that time. It's either some of them are actually go away from the hay fever maybe, but a lot of them are trying not to take any virus or any what they call the PM 2.5 from China, kind of like that, pollution things. Plus, they don't want to spread anything that they might have. So it's already customs established beforehand. So that will probably help the Japan to slow the growth of the
spread of the virus, the pandemic.
Right.
So people are asking about the Olympics, and the Olympics have been postponed a year, and I was asking you if you thought that was enough time for people to come together.
I think I myself will say probably not enough time, but I think it's likely it completely depending on how much we can deal with the actual virus, right? Whether you have vaccinations or treatment and effect, and everything is done. In Japan too, all the researchers on that line. So it's possible, but the more like a people's mentality, right? Because if the spectators are not coming, then that's a problem. Or even athletes were afraid of, that's more problems.
Right.
So
exactly.
Even though they say, hey, Japan is completely safe, it's a coronavirus free or something like that. Even so, people start to say, really, am I really safe? So those kind of mentality comes, right? So I don't think you can have it the same kind of Olympic in Tokyo as in the past,
Right, because you're right. It is about confidence. Has enough testing been done, and is it as safe as we're saying it is?
Yeah. And also they spent too much money already for preparing for the Olympic. Now they postpone for one year. They lost also quite a bit of money too, already even as U.S. Japan is now going to be this in March and April. They're starting all those coronavirus related bankruptcy and things like that growing.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's gonna affect all the business in next year, right?
Right. Because business were built up around the idea that there was going to be more traffic and hotels, and so. Well, let me ask you this: in terms of socially isolating, are the Japanese good at this? Do they like it?
Japanese are not good at. They are good at complying, certainly. Compared with probably here, I see that, because I don't see that all those demonstrations against closing the business and things like that. We don't really see them.
So there wouldn't be people in the streets protesting.
Right, but we do see that. The young surfers on the beach and so on. It's the same as.
So younger kids want to hang out together.
And even ultimately what they did is they still have not the flower viewing now too, but they also have a wisteria time, and the wisteria is a summer flower. So those viewing, what they decided is they cut entire wisteria flower so that people are not coming. So see that they cannot stop the people to come. So what they decided is they are crying, but they say, hey, this is 1 year, we got to do this. Unless we do this, people are coming. So people gathering. So in order not to let them gather, they even cut entire flowers that people are not coming.
Wow, that's incredible. So, wow. Okay, so
that's sad.
it is. I was happy to
really
see some pictures of the cherry blossoms because people missed them, right? I mean, people
right.
But another
they
boon
even
for
decided, even I think it's in the mass media too. They decided not to show all the flower, full bloom flower in the flower seasons, because that will let the people feel wanting to go, right?
Right.
So that's what. Yeah. So they try to control the media.
Okay.
Their self-control for that matters. That's
Wow.
not as bad as not too much controlling, but they try not to. But yeah, the people are pretty good in the last couple of weeks. We see that 95% down of the bullet trains. So that bullet train passengers, that will tell you about people not moving. So which is a good sign.
So no public transportation, masking, any other Japanese cultural things that have changed?
Things are they are, I think, the same as the you can't have a concert and all those the gatherings.
Okay.
So the problem here is all those entertainers, right? Comedians. Yes. And those folks are, what they do is either they have a Zoom party or something, so that they broadcast a Zoom party, kind of like that. And even here in Japan, I do with the other Japanese teachers to have a Zoom story entertainment, so that whether we can use this one for the students or not. So you have a subtitle will be there, but we have a Japanese storytelling or stand-up comedians kind of.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, to do
so
that.
Is there humor during a pandemic? Oh, that's great.
Right, so that people can enjoy that from the home, and then so it's now they're competing with who is following their the YouTube or something like that, right?
Good. So we can expect some good.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are suffering from it because those entertainers or the theater workers, that's a problem. Even if it's my daughter is a single figure skater, which is probably the better when you're coming back. But if you are the synchronized skaters, that's going to be a problem, right? Because
so
synchronized skating, then there's no social distance.
Right. And so how
even you have more than 10 people on the ice, so those are also the problem, right?
Wow. So listen, we've gotten from your personal life and in Japan and here. I guess you had, before we started talking, you had talked about this idea of voluntary compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you see, it's like in Japan, US, we have a pretty strong, here, even Illinois too. If the governor says this and that, okay, we have to follow it. If you don't comply it, there is a penalty coming, okay? In Japan, they're not, we don't have a law that penalizes the people who do not follow those, the
guidelines or recommendations.
The business closing. Things like that, yeah. So they're creating in words that voluntary, self-restriction or something like that. Now, self-restriction, you're not asking. If you're asking, that's not self, right? Right. You're asking. Right. So you are ordering, right? But they're ordering a voluntary, closing of the store.
But it's a mental thing, I got it.
Yeah. And then what the problem is, when you're asking the closing the business, you have to come up with a compensation together. But here the problem is, I don't know if I got already from the government because I put the tax on it, IRS way back. So I already got the money from the government about this coronavirus money coming into my bank account. Even this is a little money, but that helps. So it's very quick, even in the U.S. Over there, they're not. So they're suffering, right? They decided finally everyone in Japan is getting about $1,000
a month, or just total?
Just total.
Just $1,000. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Japan and the United States have several things in common then, in terms of how they're handling this.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
They also, here too, you have you are asking a business. You are the business loan, right? For the coronavirus, so you have a low interest loan, or maybe a no interest loan for a while by the government or something. That's happening in Japan too.
Also,
they do, right? Even though it's kind of.
Let me ask you, what else you want to tell us about Japan and Corona?
Japan?
Anything? Or, yeah.
Okay. I am hoping that they're going to be recovered by the end of the summer, and they're trying to do it. If the people get together and then they collaborate each other, it's possible to make at least first wave seizing of first wave. And then lowering a second wave, the weakening a second wave. Second wave is coming. Everybody knows second wave, third wave is coming. But you can weakening the second wave and third wave.
Do you think by the end of the second or third wave, and I know you can't predict, but those areas that are not as hard hit in Japan, do you think they'll get harder hit?
They get probably a little bit. They probably get a little bit, but I think they're pretty good. And then I am hoping that at least I can take students in the spring next year. In the spring break time is actually enjoying that ones, and then the summer study abroad all gonna happening. I think I have to set up with the new normal, the new words right now in Japan. Right. They're talking about a new normal. Yes. New normal is it's a lifestyle. New normal lifestyle, which is basically one word would be actually social distancing life, but not the complete social distance, right? Because right now it's social distance completely right now, but they're talking about it's basically you live by yourself.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah, with your loved ones, right?
Yeah, right. Not the gathering. By yourself. Live by yourself. Kind of, yeah, like your next chair is empty.
Oh, right.
Right now, in Japan, they decided to open the business, but they say, okay, you have to comply with the social distancing. So if you have a very small shop in Japan, very much, okay, you have 10 seats right now for like a coffee shop, you gotta have only 5, right? Because that's what's happening. So all the regulation will. Bring in.
So gradual opening.
Yeah, be level different though. Even here too, right? We're just talking about what would you do about the COD's classroom.
We also talked about too, right? You have to have the confidence of the people to show up, right? If other people don't feel like they want to come to the coffee shop. Let me stop it there and then suggest that maybe we continue the conversation another day as this evolves.